All right, it's time to start. I hope everybody's doing well. Let me introduce the people who are on the webinar who can answer questions. And again, please remember, if you put your questions in, hopefully we'll be able to answer them for you. With us today on our panel is Ms. Hirsch. Ms. Hirsch is our Director of Counseling and Wellness. Mr. Gruber, Claude Gruber, who's our Director of Athletics. Mr. Orman, who's our Director of the Arts. And Ms. Smith, who is my right hand and actually runs the middle school. I just am allowed to have the title. As you could probably know, those of you who know me and have been to my coffees know this format kills me because it doesn't allow me to do my stand-up comedy. But I will try to do my best and again, answer questions. When I was writing my notes for today, I said, an update of how are things going. We're coming as close to, at least on campus, being fairly normal. There's lots and lots of protocols and procedures that are not the same, but when it comes to what's going on classroom-wise, things are fairly normal. Of course, there's the remote students, and some of that is much more difficult. And one person asked me the other day, well, is remote and in-person equal? And I heard the greatest response, and I will give credit to the person who said it, and that was Mr. Gregerson, who said, if remote and in-person were equal, why'd I open the campus? So it's hard for kids, and this isn't a Meadows school thing, this is a national, worldwide thing, really, but national for sure, is, the deficits of learning online. It's harder. With that said, I think our teachers are doing an incredible job. Those people need to understand that it's not just doing the lesson they've already done and hoping the remote kids get it. That's not what our teachers are doing. There's so much more preparation to getting everything online and to get the get things that are everything that students need to be able to access everything onto online. So I have to tell you, our teachers are really, really working incredibly hard. And Ms. Salikas, if you could type the question in the Q&A, I'd appreciate that, at least at this point. Our teachers are doing a really, really good job. And I think that the online remote students, and again, we're also not leaving the remote students hanging out there. Students we have here, our teachers continuously check in with, between Mrs. Astorita, checking technical aspects for students and other students and other teachers, and Miss Whipple calling a lot of calling all of our remote kids. It's really been a very, very positive thing. Okay, I'm sorry, and that there wasn't. And I've having my technical issue right now. So you got to give me 1 second. I'm sorry. So I'm hoping that I've lost my question and answer screen, so you have to forgive me for a moment. So what's going on right now in the middle school? Our biggest thing for the middle school right now this week is elections. During the elections, we had over 40 students running for office, which is incredible. If you think about that, it's almost 30 some odd percent, high 30 percentages of students in the whole middle school running for an office. So that's been just outstanding and really excited for what's going on there. We had round 1 of elections yesterday, and we'll have round 2 today. The other things that I want to talk about is that we are not changing at this moment what we're done. We changed our schedule a little bit, and again, we're constantly going to be looking at how, especially through this virus, this pandemic, to make things better for our students, and for our teachers. But Uh, we're not going to become complacent, and this isn't a time to become complacent. I am very, very interested to see how our testing comes out over the next 2 days with the virus as we're coming out of the holiday weekend. And that will be, I think, a great tell for our school. I try to liken some of the things we're doing at school to how the professional the NHL, unfortunately, the Knights lost last night, so they get to leave the bubble. But our school isn't really a bubble, but we're trying to be very consistent about how our community on the campus acts when it comes to the virus. Unfortunately or fortunately, your family behaviors and the family behaviors of our community will be dictating how the school moves forward because we have to do our best to be vigilant in keeping the virus off of this campus. As we're moving forward, however, we're not so locked into, well, this is the way it has to be till. This is the way it has to be until we're confident that changing things won't affect our students. So we're, I don't want to say close, but we may be closer than I'm willing to admit publicly right now, of maybe altering how we do cohorts a little bit during the day. And the reason for that is because I want to make it better for the kids constantly. So if we find that we're keeping our virus contained, then we may start socially doing a little more mixing. When I say mixing, it won't be mixing grades, but maybe we'll be able to have 7th grade lunch instead of 7-1, 7-2, 7-3, to have the cohorts mix at least within the grade level. That will still keep us pretty safe to the point of at least being able to contact trace if it's within at least a grade. However, it also gives the kids a little more of the social atmosphere that they so badly need at this age. What I'm actually there's two things that I've left out. One is I want to go back to elections for a moment. In the election speeches of the school's theme for this year has been talking about inclusion. And while we started our summit advisories with very, very general, we haven't been going to kids. This school's about inclusion. This is about inclusion. We haven't even been using that word very much. And I would say a third, if not close to half of our election speeches yesterday, the kids spoke about wanting to have an inclusive environment. And it's very, very different depending on the grade level you're talking about and how they're using that word. I think for the younger kids, they're using inclusion to talk about being friends with everybody and treating everybody nicely. In the 8th grade, I think they're really using inclusion to recognize the differences that people have and make sure that those differences, that they don't feel odd. They're talking about much more of what they understand and are mature enough to understand what's going on in the world and how that we have to be inclusive to everybody, whether they have a different, whether it's sexual orientation or whether it's body type or whether it's race or whether it's ethnicity. And when it comes to those things, we also have to realize that our kids have to realize, and parents need to help affirm this, that we have to have a much tighter line on these things as a school. How I grew up is different than, I'm a little older than most parents, hopefully not too much older than the middle school parents. Every year, I think the spread gets larger for me, considering I think now there's 7 or 8 families that I taught the parents in middle school. That age spread's getting a little larger, and different than you grew up, and they're growing up in a different world. And we all had to adjust to that world that we grew up in, and we have to make sure our kids are adjusting to that too, and understanding the sensitivity of words that are not acceptable in today's society. I think the thing I'm happiest about to report is I'm dealing with the normal middle school problems. The pandemic aside, and that's why I say we're getting close to normal in a lot of ways, because we're dealing with kids messing around on the computer and playing games when they shouldn't be. Guess what? I've been telling parents I've been dealing with that for years, and we've spent so many of these coffees talking about that. And so I'm actually somewhat happy that those are the issues that I'm dealing with. Please be reminded that while we're allowing phones to be with the kids, one is we don't have lockers for them to put them in, and as the bell rings for the next period, and we want them to, they're scanning in and they're using their phones for different things, which is okay when they're education school related, but still between 8 and 3:15, those phones are only for those uses, school uses. So please don't keep texting them. 3:15, you want to text them, you're here, great, no problem with that anymore. But besides that, please don't text your children back and forth during the day. I went to school from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., I remember. And it was amazing that I actually grew up to be an adult and didn't have to talk to my parent during the day. So my mom went to work and dad went to work. I didn't speak to them or text with them or converse with them till we got home that evening. So it doesn't have to be a constant. The phone's not an umbilical cord. So please, some people need to cut them a little bit. And we're trying to get the kids to cut them between each other during the day. And then the last thing is social issues, and there's nothing new. We're dealing with those social issues that arise in middle school, and we're going to continue to, that's the middle school age. And to be honest, that's kind of what keeps me going in my job, is the fact that I have that ability to do that and to continue and do that. So before I go to any questions, and again, I'm not going to give a big lecture today. I usually like to have a topic that we discuss, but I really don't enjoy doing it on this webinar yet. I guess I have to get more familiar and more comfortable with it. But the last thing I'm saying is, please remember that in this time of social media, we all have this responsibility to be better monitors of our children. Those of you who are sixth graders, because I know the seventh, eighth grade parents, I apologize, you've heard me talk about this before, is I'd be remiss, I'd be a liar if I didn't say I had dealt with some, I would say serious online transgressions with at least one of my daughters, my younger daughter. My older daughter, she hated it. She actually put Facebook up for a little while before she got to college and took it off because she hated it so much because she didn't like what her friends were posting, and actually only started another account when she went to college because that's how you found a roommate through that. And now, of course, Facebook is for us old people, and the kids have all these other different ways. And the other warning I would tell you is, and if you haven't read the articles, I know TikTok is so popular. I'm seeing parents starting to post TikTok videos. Please understand that TikTok, if you read the articles, is one of the largest pedophile rings and recruiting rings in the world. So please make sure, again, if you're allowing your kids this access, that you're doing your best to monitor it. And I'm going to ask if there's anybody on the committee, Mr. Orman, Mr. Goubert, Ms. Hirsch, who want to say anything before I start answering questions. Shake your head, Mr. Goubert. Mr. Goubert, you have anything?
I think just, a brief update on middle school sports and the fact that we're still waiting to hear about the way this is going to work out. So we really don't have any information on that yet. So we're just still going to continue to work with the kids and continue to build our program internally. And, we're definitely looking at ways to expand and keeping the kids in their cohorts. And, we started the after school tennis program, and that seems to be going well so far. So we're looking at expanding other opportunities after school as well for kids. So just stand by, and, you should be hearing something from us very soon.
Mr. Goubert, while you're here still on, I do have a parent who's asked the question. I know if we're lucky, sports will start in January. When will practices start?
So once we have a sense of that, and it's the same thing for the upper school. Right now, we're just doing these after school trainings, and each, the teams are getting together a couple times a week. But once we have a better sense of what the schedules will look like, then we're going to start to create that. So it may be, we could be starting as early as mid-October to start putting together team practices once we understand the order of how our seasons will look. But I think that the idea is to have these after-school activities mirror what we're doing in the upper school, so that the kids can start to get together. Because I don't know if they're going to mirror, the middle school sport the way they're doing the upper school, which is they've kind of flipped the seasons around. But if they do, then we'll do it. We'll kind of work together where the practices will happen simultaneously. So we're looking at that happening maybe by around mid to late October.
Thank you. Mr. Orman?
Yeah, so
Actually, Mr. Orman, sorry, you know what? Let me go to Ms. Hirsch because I know she has to go in a few minutes, and I'll come back to you. I apologize.
I'll just say a few words. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I know, as Mr. Siegel was saying, it's been, in some ways, a smooth transition, but at the same time, just acknowledging that our students are dealing with a lot of change and being in a whole new school environment. So bumps in the road may pop up, and if they do, please reach out to Kaylee or me, Kaylee Whipple, our middle school counselor. We do work together in many ways to support the teachers, Mr. Siegel, and individual students and families. We're here for you as family as well, for consults or anything that might be going on. The main thing we know is that the more we can be connected, the more we can communicate and get ahead of anything that might pop up, the better for our students and their learning and their overall social emotional development. So please reach out anytime, and we can talk through anything. And we're just so grateful to have, to be able to be a part of this fantastic middle school faculty. And really, we have a team-based collaborative approach, which I think is really helpful at this tough adolescence time for your students. So again, happy to talk about anything come what may, and hope you all are doing well during this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Hirsch. And I'm sorry now, Mr. Orman,
No
Director of
worries.
Arts.
So to give you an update of where we stand with the arts, we started at the beginning of the year, we changed the structure of the electives. And so just a refresher, so now students have a quarter of theater, a quarter of visual arts, a quarter of music with a choice of band and orchestra, where we will be providing a musical instrument if your student does not have one already. And then depending on the grade, they would have life, forensics, competitive science, film studies. So your children do get a quarter experience of a variety of electives. Moving forward for next year, we will analyze what is the best approach, whether or not we go back to the choice of electives or stay on the carousel. But right now, we will continue with this for the rest of the year, just since we are in the schedule and in the cohorts model. We are providing students enrichment opportunities. Miss Carlson has is developing a after-school virtual production, middle school theater production, where they will be doing it over Zoom and recording it. So we are still trying to give the students enrichment in the arts and opportunities to have different ways to express themselves. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. But other than that, that's kind of where we stand.
Mr. Orman,
Yeah.
I haven't gotten this question, but I know I've heard it before. Could you explain to the families when band and orchestra rotate into them? I know the people have it first quarter, got a pleasant surprise. Could you tell them about the instruments and how that works?
Yes. So what will happen, and we had to pivot closer to the school year, so it took a little bit of time for the students to get musical instruments. But what will happen about 2 weeks before the quarter starts, our band instructor and our orchestra instructor will go into the cohort, talk about the class, talk about the experience that each provides, and then the students will decide which either band or orchestra that they would like to go into. And through further discussions, we'll decide on the specific instrument, whether it's a saxophone or a trumpet or percussion. They would then decide that. And given the instrument, we would then take an inventory and provide that instrument to your child prior to the start of the quarter, so that that instrument would go home with them. It's a loaner provided by the school, and they would then be able to have that instrument the entire time, practice at home, and then at the end of the quarter return it back to the school. So that way you're not you're not needing to go get an instrument yourself. If you have one, if your child has been taking saxophone since second grade, please feel free to use your own. But we would just want musical instruments in every student's hands and be able to provide it to every student.
Thank you, Mr. Orman.
You're welcome.
I don't know if people, I hope people like what's going on, because usually when I don't, at least when I have my coffees, it's a barrage of parents and a barrage of questions. I have to say I have very few questions, so let me answer the I think two others that I have, besides the one that Mr. Gruber answered about sports. And this also is regards to physical education in sports, but I can answer this one. Given the workouts are intense, and I think Mr. Sams is doing an incredible job with these students, would I consider waiving the winter uniform policy so the students can continue to wear uniform shorts all year? The answer is yes, I will consider it. It's something that I would have to have a discussion with Mr. Gregerson regarding. Those of you, I hope everybody's aware that we have not done away with full dress. The lower school and the middle school had decided together that we were just postponing full dress as it's been so hot, and the kids go to PE to not have to be because they can't change for PE, to have not wear ties and shoes and have a place to put their shoes when they're not wearing sneakers. So we've postponed that right now until further notice, and Ms. Kennedy and I talk every other week or so regarding that issue, and when we'll give you notice when we decide to put full dress back in. And please also remember that full dress in middle school, as a parent, I knew that $100 blazer that they wore for 20 minutes a day was an expense, and that they always lost, so that we had done away with that part of the dress uniform, and I hope everybody was happy about that. Of course, they're still welcome to wear it. So if somebody really says, well, I was looking forward to wearing a blazer in middle school, they're more than welcome to wear that. And so when it comes to PE, same thing, is we'll keep discussing that and decide whether or not we need them to go to pants or not as we get to it's not until November. So I promise I'll give you plenty of notice then. In the nice weather, I know the 6th grade eats lunch inside while the other 2 grades eat outside. The answer is yes, in the near future. And when I'm saying near future, by next week, the 6th grade, because especially on Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, so days 1, 2, and 3, we have a longer lunch now. So we're definitely, as the weather's gotten nice, going to get the 6th grade outside also. To be totally honest, I really want to see where we are, if I can get if we have the same results that we've had in the last several weeks regarding COVID testing. I'm thinking of especially if we go to cohorting by grade, then there's going to be plenty of room outside to have each grade have their own spot, and the kids can all eat outside on nice days. And we do have a backup, by the way, for those who are concerned about the days that aren't that nice. I do want to say the parents said so the 6th grades can get fresh air due to the California fires. I don't think we are entitled right now to any fresh air. I think the smoke, while we're better than a lot of other places, we will, we'll try to get that done as quick as possible. Right now, so I have a remote parent asking, will the opportunities for distant learners to come to campus for outdoor classes? And I'm going to tell you the answer right now to that is no. Unless that is not a middle school policy, that is an all school policy, that we respect parents who've decided for the different reasons that their children need to be distant learners. And we really can't have, we can't have academic classes outside when there are any remote students, because we can't move the remote outside. The cameras are all set up within the classrooms. So that puts limitations. We actually have teachers who would love to have classes outside throughout the year, but we can't do that. If Mr. Gregerson, and we discuss it again probably every other week at our administrators meeting, but right now the school policy is that if you choose to be if you choose or need, I don't want it to sound like it's a negative, that remote learning, then the campus, then there's not mixing for the outside students and the inside and the students that are on campus. But I'm sure that's going to be continuously reviewed as we go through the year. I will also say thank you to the parent who wrote, yes, you're all doing amazing and we're grateful and love you so much. And really, I don't know if I could have handled another year personally of being just online. With the Spanish change to the PE spot, when will the middle school remote PE start and what time slot? I'm going to let Mr. Gruber take part of that, but I will also say the middle school PE program, remote program, is kind of an on your own program. So if you don't want them to do it after school, which is fine with me, they all have an extra study hall during their Spanish slot. So there's plenty of time to do it. It's going to be videos that are going to be uploaded. And I think, I see Mr. Gruber shaking his head. I'm pretty confident that's going to be uploaded today, Mr. Gruber, or early this week.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, those videos will be there. Again, it's taken a while, not because of anybody being remiss, but there are lots of schools that have just gone out and downloaded videos off the web of different exercises, and that's not what Mr. Sams wanted. Mr. Sams wanted to produce his own videos and make it for our students, not for the general, just pull things for the general public. So they have if you're seventh graders, and it's only seventh graders that have the Spanish change, and just so people understand, at least seventh grade parents understand, I tried to explain it in writing. We made that change because there has to be dialogue for Spanish. It's the only way the class is taught. Miss Modi has done a great job, and I was in Miss Jackson's class just yesterday, and it was so incredibly lively, except that, so it was so hard to have the back and forth dialogue. And then because the seventh grade, and why we're picking on the seventh graders, because seventh grade has 5 times the amount of online students in the 6th grade and more than twice the number of 8th grade. So I don't know, as I explained in the letter, I don't know what caused that anomaly, because it's anybody I speak to in education can't understand it. We would think that we'd be within about 3 students, 4 students in each grade, and we have 4 or 5 less, I think 9 or 10 now, and then 20 in 7th grade. So it doesn't make statistical sense. I'm not criticizing anybody who's been there, but it just doesn't make a statistical sense. But because Spanish, so everybody's been managing in 6th and 8th grade because the numbers on the screen are 2 or 3 in each class. In 7th grade, there was actually a class that had 9 students online, and since Spanish broke up to 2 sections, one teacher had 5 in the classroom, one teacher had 4 in the classroom. Having that dialogue with 9 people on the screen, 5, just wasn't working well. And we want the remote students to benefit and the in-class students, so that's why we separated out. So all the remote students can be focused on the teacher and have a direct back and forth. It doesn't work that Spanish doesn't work as well as the other classes have been working. And then another parent just wants to say thank you also, and says that the year has started fairly seamlessly. I mean, I guess as seamlessly as you can do in a pandemic. And I really do. And I want to give the credit. First of all, Ms. Hirsch said something before. She's had to go to another meeting that said we have a great team, and we do. This to me, for so many years, I felt like I was the Lone Ranger in the middle school, and now I have Mr. Orman, Mr. Gruber, Ms. Hirsch, Ms. Whipple. I have great support system behind us, not even me, behind us as a school, and just been an exceptional, a lot of help to begin the year. And they all have a great support system. But to be honest, the bottom line, and we can all think we're doing a great job as administrators, bottom line of these teachers, they are just killing it. And again, I know it's not all perfect. And believe me, when things are going wrong in technology and things are freezing up, they're more frustrated than anybody else. And we're doing our best to resolve that. The school's making a major investment over the winter break to actually change even the cabling that comes into the campus to make this work better. God forbid it lasts longer or in the future comes back too. So it's those teachers. I know I'm also married to a public school teacher, and the amount of time that is going into them, what they're doing is not, they always put in a huge amount of time. And now making sure that it's all the remote students that are being handled also, they're doing 60-hour weeks minimally. And I just applaud them. And I have to tell you, they're not complaining. They're just taking on the next challenge and the next challenge and the next challenge. I had some comments just thanking us for the scheduling changes. If those of you who really looked at them, I know it's confusing. We shortened our advisory and our assembly a little bit. And the reason we did that was I wasn't taking time from their academics, and they needed a little more downtime. Again, it's been hectic, so they've gotten another some extra time in snack and extra time in lunch. That's where we put the time. So guess what? We want them to be kids, and that I agree. We want to get the 6th grade outside more, and I promise by next week that will happen one way or the other, whether we stay in the same cohort we're doing now or not. I'm going to put out one last call for any other questions. Thank you again. I really may copy and paste without your names because I don't want to embarrass anybody. How many questions? I have more comments here about positive comments about what our faculty and staff and everybody's doing. So I really, really appreciate that. I hope, I even like, by the way, we like carpool. I know you guys may not, but it's working really, really well for us. And we know we're sometimes waiting for kids. And yesterday, we had computer, but if you think about it, it is by about 3:31. So about 15 to 16 minutes after we let kids out of class, we're done. Kids are gone. And then we're still providing for those who have issues. So I don't see any more questions. And again, I want to thank Ms. Marlene, I can't say it, Casanello, for setting up the webinars. And, people know me, I'm a little slimmer. That's the only change in me this year. But otherwise, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me, contact me, and we'll work on things because it's a team effort. And parents are definitely a big part of that team. So everybody have a great day, and I'm going out there to get elections ready for the next for 9:40 assembly. Thank you, everybody.